afternoon. Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. Can everyone hear me in the back? Yay, what an amazing crowd. Hello. My name is Sylvia. I have the privilege of managing the homeless initiative for the Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. And welcoming you to Peace Village Co-op's opening today. Hooray! Just a really quick personal story. Nearly a decade ago, I was moving home to my beloved hometown of Eugene, and I was volunteering with the Oregon Community Foundation. And one of the first site visits I went on was to Opportunity Village. And although Andy and Dan will not remember it, it left a deep impression on me, seeing their tiny home village and hearing about their vision for what SquareOne Villages could become. And watching that over the last decade has been tremendous. With an especially important note of thanks to Bryant for the last couple of years. Dan has been involved with a community homeless initiative the last couple of years, and bringing his leadership, vision, and his kindness has just been tremendous. So thank you, Dan, and thank you to the entire SquareOne Villages family, the supporters, the board, the staff members. We thank you as a community, and on behalf of the Chamber, we thank you for stepping up and adding 70 more affordable homes to our community. I'd like to pass it to Mayor Vinis.
Good afternoon, and thank you all so much for coming out in the rain and the cold. We are all Oregonians here, just dressed for the weather, ready to show off whenever it's important and whenever we need to. So this is certainly a moment of celebration for this wonderful new housing development, and it is, both in my role as mayor and just as a human being, a moment of incredible gratitude. And so I want to take a couple of minutes to just express that gratitude to all of the people who have made this happen. And of course, the first expression of gratitude is to Bryant and to the whole team at SquareOne Villages and to the board of SquareOne Villages for really being visionaries, creative problem solvers, for recognizing that we have this just overwhelming need for additional housing for so many people in our community, and there are so many barriers to accessing housing, and for finding ways, creative ways, to reduce those barriers and open the door. The second piece of gratitude is to Peace Presbyterian Church. Yes. Talk about acting from your heart and your head, right? The heart is how to help people. The head is what we do practically, and how do we use this piece of property to its best and highest purpose. And so incredible thanks to them for having the courage and the commitment, and again, being creative problem solvers, how to make this happen and bring it here today. It's just incredibly powerful. And then third, I really want to honor in general our state delegation, and in particular a shout out to Representative Nancy Nathanson. Somewhere in the crowd. I can't see past the lights. There she is. Thank you, Nancy. Because this really creative financing model, this co-op, needed a new piece of legislation to make it permissible. They needed an adjustment to the low-income housing tax credit, and it was Representative Nathanson who carried that ball, carried that legislation, and made sure that people understood what this was and educated them and enabled this to happen. So again, thank you for that. State leadership is so critical in how we act on these crucial challenges, and especially homelessness and housing at the local level. And then my fourth statement of gratitude is really to all of you, to the community partners who worked together to bring this to fruition, to all of you as donors who gave funding, to all of you who took the time to understand how this would work and to communicate to everyone else in the community about the value of this model, about our capacity as a community to really step into this most critical issue. I am so proud to be the mayor of a city like this, where everyone steps in as a team and says, we have this huge problem. No one is going to solve it with a single action or a single idea or a single stream of funding. We are all going to have to be all in. Huge gratitude to the Chamber of Commerce for really stepping into this space and building coalitions and bringing people together to understand what it takes to do this. We know that housing is healthcare, that housing is essential infrastructure, and that housing is the pathway to economic stability and prosperity. All three of those things must happen. It is a crucial role of local government and state government, and I would say federal government, that we enable these investments to happen and that we remove as many barriers as possible to get people back into housing and to enable them to retain their housing. This project, along with all of the other projects that happen in our community and the other projects that SquareOne Villages has undertaken, are crucial, and very exciting steps in how we break the barriers, we break the mold, and we create new molds, new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things, to create the community that we want to be in the future, where people live stable, healthy lives, and where children grow up in those stable, healthy households. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your courage and your commitment, and congratulations to everyone for bringing this project to fruition.
Thank you so much, Mayor Vinis. I'm Dan Bryant, by the way. You knew that, yeah. We wanted to begin with the mayor in part because political support is so essential to the work that we do, and we have received such incredible political support from the City Council from the moment when we made that wacky proposal back in 2013 for Opportunity Village, and won over 6 of the 8 city councilors. And Mayor Piercy, who became our board chair, was key to that, here with us. And then we've taken off from there. We do have Councilor Leach here with us, who I'll introduce a little bit later. For the ribbon cutting, we really appreciate the state leadership, and we've already mentioned Representative Nathanson. I saw Senator Prozansky out here somewhere. Where is he? Yeah, and there's Floyd. I know we also have, I think, is Matt Keeney here, the other city councilor, and Matt, representing also Senator Manning, who's been so huge and huge support. Really appreciate that. Our county commissioners, I know Pat Farr was planning to cut out of the Poverty and Homelessness Board meeting. I apologize, we said this at the same time. We didn't realize that. I don't see if he's here though, but appreciate all of that support from all of those folks. I want to shout out to our board members. Board members, raise your hands. Where are you, board members? Isaac Judd is our current board president. I'm going to invite you all up for the ribbon cutting at the end. And of course the donors. $1.6 million in charitable contributions to make this project happen. Yes, it is incredible. Of course, the largest contribution came from the state of Oregon through 2 separate bills in the state legislature. We'll say a little bit more about that, and the American Rescue Plan that enabled us to purchase this property. So I think many of you know that SquareOne began 10 years ago as a grassroots organization seeking to find new solutions for our unhoused community. And we opened Opportunity Village, a new style of non-congregate shelter, and a model that has been multiplied and modified many times over, not only in this community, but around the state and the nation. We had no plan at that time to build housing. It actually evolved out of that work when we realized that the solution to the unhoused crisis was not more shelter. The solution is more housing. And you don't have to follow the data collected by the county to know that the number of unhoused people in our community continues to grow. It is evident all around us. The suffering is evident all around us. And if we keep doing things the way that we have always done them, how can we expect any other result? And so we shifted our mission. Having pioneered a new model of shelter, we just decided to pioneer a new model of housing. Building neither single-family homes nor apartment buildings, the two predominant models of housing, where you are either a homeowner or a renter, but creating instead democratic communities with homes that are permanently affordable and environmentally sustainable. We call this our village model, where community is built into the housing. And the real beauty of this model is that we are not the landlord of the residents. I mean, just think about that term, landlord. It comes out of, an era of serfdom, right? Lords of the land and the tenants. And so we are very proud that the residents of this village will own and operate their own housing. Not only giving them the pride and the benefit of ownership, but eliminating the profit motive and ensuring that this housing will remain affordable in perpetuity. Now, Andy is going to say a little bit more about that, but I just want to close by saying we're very excited to be here today to see this dream of a new style of shared housing come to fulfillment, which we believe can do so much to solve this housing crisis, not just in this community, but around the state and even around the nation, so that every person may have a stable, affordable place to call home. They deserve to know that. So, I like to say it takes brain and beauty to build an organization, and actually our deputy director is the brain. You think about it, it'll come to you in a moment. But much of the ideas and the concepts has come from Andrew Heben, who's just been a wonderful person to work with, and is one of the co-founders of this organization. Andy and I and several others in this community. A few here today. I saw Michael Kerrigan is here. Probably a couple others, and we couldn't have done it without you. But I'm going to turn it over to Andy now to describe a little bit more in detail the housing model. Andy, come on up.
All right, thank you, Dan, for the kind words. And thank you all for coming out. It's so great to see so many familiar faces that have interacted with our work in one way or another over the past 10 years. So yes, thanks for coming out to celebrate the completion of our 5th project. We're not 100% complete, but we're very, very close. I'd say 99%. We're hoping to get our occupancy permits sometime next week. And I don't know that anybody's mentioned it yet, but this has been 4 years in the making since we first met with the church to discuss this concept. But I wanted to start by thanking our partners in the design and construction of this housing. We worked with Cultivate on the building architecture, KPFF on the civil engineering, Saturate Group on the land use process and landscape plan. Blue Ink Capital provided a flexible construction loan to us at a below market interest rate, which was a huge help. And Dorman Construction was our general contractor, and all of the subcontractors as well. We want to thank them. This is by far our biggest and most ambitious development to date, and so I can't say enough good things about that team and their ability to help us deliver a quality product of much needed affordable housing. Next, I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight some of the key aspects of the project to give better context to what you see in front of you today. If you've been following our work for a while, you might have come expecting to see the standalone tiny homes that we have become known for with previous projects like Opportunity Village and Emerald Village. And that was the plan initially. But because the church generously sold us the entire property after we ran into cost issues trying to divide it into 2 properties, it doubled the amount of housing we could develop on the site from 35 to 70 homes. So from a design perspective, Peace Village attempts to balance 2 goals: providing a higher density of housing in order to maximize the site and respond to the scale of the problem we're facing, and while still maintaining a human-scale, village-like environment where parking is kept to the perimeter and each home has a front porch that opens onto a common open space. In a few minutes, you'll have a chance to tour each of the 5 unique floor plans if you haven't already. Included is a studio with sleeping loft, a 1-bedroom with sleeping loft, an accessible 1-bedroom unit, a 2-bedroom townhome, and a 1-bedroom flat, which has an upstairs and a downstairs version. While the individual homes are relatively small, the existing church buildings over here also offer common amenities that extend the space of each home. This includes a community kitchen and dining area, a meeting space large enough to accommodate all residents, laundry facilities, bike parking, and other flexible use spaces. And in working with Bill and Lamar and Cultivate, we also made significant progress on reducing the environmental impact of our housing. These homes are designed to use around 50% of the energy as a similar sized home built to minimum code standards, with elevated insulation and airtightness measures using 2x8 wall construction and heat pump water heaters and mini splits for heating and cooling. But there's also a whole lot more to this housing than the physical structures you see in front of you. Our primary goal for this project was to establish the most accessible pathway to home ownership while also preserving the long-term affordability of the housing. After the open house later today, we will be holding our first information session for the applicants that will be the initial members of the Peace Village Co-op, where they'll have a chance to view the units, review the legal documents, and ask questions before signing the paperwork. At 70 units, this will become the 4th and largest housing co-op developed by SquareOne Villages, also making it the largest housing co-op in Oregon. It's a relatively unfamiliar ownership type in most parts of the country, so many of you might be wondering, what is a housing co-op exactly? And that's my daughter, Cora. Thank you, Cora. But back to what a housing co-op is. In simplest terms, it's a corporation formed for the purpose of providing stable housing to its members on a continuing basis. Residents do not own their individual house. Instead, they own an equal share and vote in a cooperative that owns all of the housing. We believe this form of housing offers greater control and stability to the residents when compared to rental housing, while also being far more accessible and less risky than single-family home ownership. Co-op members share responsibilities that a homeowner or landlord typically handles, including adopting budgets, setting policies, overseeing repairs, and solving problems. And it's more accessible because it doesn't require each household to qualify for an individual mortgage. Instead, the co-op holds a single mortgage on the property, and each member shares in the monthly cost to operate the housing. To join Peace Village Co-op, each member must purchase a $5,000 membership share in the co-op, which serves as their equity in the housing. Thanks to our generous donors, SquareOne has been able to start a revolving loan fund to reduce the upfront cost burden for those that need assistance. And because Peace Village is a limited equity co-op, the price at which a member can sell their membership is limited to 3% simple interest plus any improvements made. This keeps buying costs low and preserves affordability for future members. To add an extra layer of stability, our nonprofit, SquareOne Villages, will retain ownership of the underlying land following a community land trust model, ensuring the housing remains permanently affordable over the long term and providing ongoing support to the co-op as needed. This form of shared home ownership offers a promising model for reimagining how our housing is owned and financed, with a non-commercial housing option that promotes housing as a stable place to call home rather than simply a financial asset to be bought and sold. The challenge ahead of us is, how do we continue to create more housing of this kind? Monthly housing costs at Peace Village, including utilities, mortgage payments, and all other operating costs, are just $450 to $750 a month depending on unit size. Meaning that households earning just 30 to 60% of the area median income are able to operate quality, affordable housing at cost without the need for additional ongoing subsidy. Achieving these affordability levels requires one-time upfront capital funding to reduce the amount of debt on the housing. The problem is that because cooperatively owned housing is so unfamiliar, it's not currently compatible with a lot of the public subsidies and incentives that support affordable housing efforts. We're hopeful that this project will make progress in that regard, and in fact it already has. I believe Mayor Vinis already mentioned the property tax exemption that we worked with Rep. Nathan's on. But also, Peace Village Co-op received $5.3 million in funding from the state legislature and Oregon Housing and Community Services to build this housing as a shared equity homeownership pilot program. And we believe that this pilot will demonstrate the value of this model and the need for more resources invested in housing that is cooperatively owned by the people that live in it. And with that said, I'm excited to introduce Amy Nehl, Director of Public Affairs at Oregon Housing and Community Services.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us to be a part of this exciting day. For those of you who don't know, Oregon Housing and Community Services is the state's funding unit for the state. Sorry about that. We are the housing finance agency for the state of Oregon, and so most of the time we are behind the scenes putting resources into all the really important and hard work that all of you are doing on the ground. We know that no community there's not one solution for all communities, and it really takes the work and dedication of all of you to make opportunities like this happen in your community. So I just want to say thank you so much to Square Village, to the city, to the county, to all of the partners, to the community for making this happen. 4 years is a long time of passion and dedication and commitment, and a lot of hoops to go through. So I just want to thank all of you for that passion, that commitment, and that dedication for making today possible. I also want to give a special thank you to SquareOne Villages for your commitment to providing highly energy efficient and sustainable homes, and for centering and also importantly for centering equity, diversity, and inclusion in your outreach efforts to make marginalized populations also have access to housing. We are grateful and honored to be a funding partner in the development of Peace Village so more families in the Eugene area, especially here in Santa Clara, can experience the joys and security of owning their own home. Our vision at OHCS is that all Oregonians have the opportunity to pursue prosperity and live free from poverty. This is an example of how that is going to happen across the state of Oregon, and we are grateful to be here. Thank you so much for including us in this great event today.
So we mentioned the church, Peace Presbyterian. Members of the church that are present, raise up your hands. Yep. We really thank them for their partnership and sharing the vision for what this will be. I want to invite Pastor Glenn Edwards up to share a few comments.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here and be a part of this implementation of a dream and a vision. Very risky, Dan. You gave me 4 minutes. I'm a preacher. That's asking a lot. You know that. This place out here is worth 12 parables. And every preacher's dream is to preach to a large congregation. We have about 20 folks on Sunday mornings at our congregation when we worship. We're a small church that likes to be a part of big things, and this is a really big thing. And instead of 3 points, I'm just going to make 1 point. This church got here today without a church fight and with a blessing. We had members from our congregation networking with other members of Presbyterian and community groups who have quilted blankets that will welcome the new residents of all 7. And that, for me, is another parable, that these homes come wrapped up in love. And we talk about spiritual homes and churches, and what a great parable, homes for people. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, community. Good work.
Thank you, Glenn. It really has been a blessing to us and now a blessing to 70 households. We'll share in this wonderful blessing. What we'd like to do next is invite all of our board members to come up front. And I think we can do it here underneath the awning so you don't have to get wet. And all of the future residents to come up front who happen to be present. And they're going to lead our ribbon cutting with their city councilor for this district, Councilor Leach.